Welcome to the Seahawks Forever podcast. In-depth analysis on everything Seahawks. And now, here's your host, Dan Viens.
What's up, everybody? How have you been? A little bit more casual format today. Still not completely all set up. Second day back in the Seattle area, staying at a friend's house who needed a little house sitting for the first couple days. So it'll be tomorrow and the next day that I'll get my studio all unpacked and set up and everything and get back to normal. But just wanted to touch on a couple of things today. First of all, just a lot of news and notes coming in from around the division and around the league, and some of it related to the Seahawks as we get ready to open training camp tomorrow. Practice starts at 1:15 tomorrow, Wednesday the 23rd. And then stick around till the end, and I'll have an update on coverage plans as we move later into the week. As we're here, guys, the offseason that felt like it took forever because it started with so much drama and so much news and so many moves and acquisitions and trades and whatnot, and then just kind of seemed to take forever. We are on the verge of seeing football tomorrow at VMAC. As you can see behind me, absolutely perfect weather. It'll be in the mid to high 80s today. I haven't checked the forecast for tomorrow, but this is just kind of how it is this time of year. So it'll be a beautiful scenic day out at Lake Washington. Tomorrow is a practice that's open to the public. So season ticket holders day, this one and the one on the 31st, are reserved for season ticket holders. So those of you who are watching who are season ticket holders who are going to be there, definitely wave, give me a shout if you see me tomorrow. And again, I'll give you some details here at the end of the show. Before I get into this, if you would please subscribe, share, like the video. It's the best way to support the channel and what I do as an independent content creator, doing it full time. And then all the other ways you can support the channel and what I do are listed and linked down below in the description also. As well as now, once I'm back, or now that I'm back and settling in and get everything set up, really crank up the Substack. So if you haven't subscribed to that, get on over there. I'm going to keep it free through the end of the month, so you'll get training camp material there. Some of the pieces will be companions to what you see here on the video channels, both here and Patreon. And some of them will be their own unique analysis. And so take advantage of that if you can. Head on over to the Seahawks Forever Substack. All right, just kind of compiling some things from around the league today that I thought were of interest to us and the Seahawks and its fans. The biggest news, I think, as we sit here on the eve of training camp is that there's no news. And what I mean by that is there is no drama. This is the time of year when we start to figure out who's serious as far as players taking a stand for new contracts. Are they going to report to camp or not? Are players healthy or not? The things that we heard over the offseason about certain players, are those things accurate? You know, we've seen it many times in the past. We've seen it go either way. We fully expect that player to be ready to go by training camp, and they're not. Or we think it's going to take a little while, and then they show up to training camp, boom, they're not on the PUP list, they're not on the NFI list, none of that, they're good to go. With the Seahawks, signed, sealed, delivered, got the two second-round picks done a few days ago. No real health issues to speak of outside of fourth-round draft pick Riley Mills out of Notre Dame. We'll get more information on where he is and his rehabilitation sometime this week, I would imagine. He was optimistic, and his agency or his representatives were optimistic when he was drafted that he'd be good to go by training camp. But John Schneider, after he was drafted, said mid-season, maybe. So tempering expectations. It'd be interesting to see where he is. Sounds like Torrey Horton is good to go. Did not show up on the NFI list or the PUP list. A couple of the guys that did immediately on the NFI list came off of it or were released, like Zy Alexander, the corner out of LSU that a lot of people were so high on. Now, just to clarify, because I do get questions about this, NFI stands for non-football injury, and it doesn't necessarily mean that it's something that was done outside of their contractual protections and obligations. This isn't a Jeff Kent, I was washing my truck situation. Non-football injury means that they were injured somewhere other than team facilities during team activities. And so with some of these players, they're still rehabbing an injury from college. With others, it's especially, and we saw this last year too. There were about 9 players initially on the NFI list about a week before camp, and then within 2 days it was down to 1 or 2 players. Similar situation this year. All it means is they got hurt working out on their own, and it could be something severe. It could be something simple. We don't know. Haven't heard any information yet on what specifically it was with Zy Alexander. The team was certainly high on him. He was one of their priority undrafted free agents, got one of the biggest bonuses that were handed out to the undrafted guys this year. Could just be that he sprained his ankle and he's going to miss a couple of weeks. He could very well still come back to the team at some point in the future. They could circle back once he's 100% healthy and ready to pass his physical and sign him to the practice squad, or if we're still early enough in camp, sign him to the roster and give him a shot. It's just that at this point, as they're about to open camp, it just didn't make sense to hold a roster spot for a guy that's just not ready to go. So we'll see. Maybe Zy Alexander's story hasn't quite been written here with the Seahawks. May also, depending on when they knew about the injury situation, may help explain the timing of signing Shaq Griffin a couple of weeks ago after kind of sort of holding that in limbo for a couple of months after they met with him right before the draft. So that's where that stands. Seahawks are good to go, and I don't think it's outside of the normal sense of reasoning that things could have been much different this offseason if Geno Smith and DK Metcalf hadn't been traded. And we've talked about this a little bit on the show, but imagine if John Schneider just put his foot down. Nope, Geno, you're under contract for another year. We want to move forward with you. You're our quarterback. You're asking for too much. Here's what we're willing to pay you. Geno says that's not enough. Are we talking about a holdout right now? Are we talking about some contentious negotiations? Same with DK Metcalf. After he was traded and he requested that trade, we then found out in the last 6 weeks or so that it wasn't the first time he'd done that. That this time a year ago he had asked for a trade. And the team said no. It just didn't get out publicly. If they had, again, kind of put their foot down with DK with 1 year left on his deal and said, nope, we want you part of the team. We're not going to trade you. We don't think we're going to get fair value, what have you. Is he holding out right now? Is there a lot of distraction around the team? You flip that over, and this may be the most harmonious offseason that I can remember in a long time. Just absolutely no contract issues, no off-field issues from any players. Some of you thought last week, some of you started getting a little nervous about the second rounder thing. I wasn't worried. And within hours, both those guys were signed. So lots of positive vibes as we head into the first day of training camp tomorrow. Elsewhere, ESPN put out a piece late yesterday, I believe. Mike Clay, who does a lot of their fantasy stuff, ranked all 32 NFL rosters. I thought I would comment on this. This one didn't really rile me up in any way, as some of their lists have in the past. I'm sure you recall. Put the Seahawks 20th. A couple of things he said. He had some bullet points under each team's little capsule. Biggest strength, biggest weakness, X factor. Biggest strength, interior defensive line. I don't think that's a surprise to anyone. You could maybe make an argument for corner, I think, at least as far as the starters go, but I think there's enough depth in the interior defensive line. Makes sense. Biggest weakness, take a guess, right? Low-hanging fruit, easy, offensive line. Now, he didn't say it's terrible, they're doomed. He said, and this is a quote, "It looks better than a year ago. There's still a lot of uncertainty." And I think that word really rings true this offseason when it comes to the national media. We've talked a lot about their thoughts on the Seahawks, why they've been reluctant, most of them, to embrace the changes the Seahawks have made, especially on offense. And talked about this last night with Bryce, Michael Thompson, and Ryan over on the Hawk Zone Rundown. If you didn't check that out, great discussion with those guys. That is living on my page as well as Hawk Zone Rundown. That there's some fatigue that sets in, I think. For the last 7 or 8 off seasons, these national guys, and I've always said, like, I have a tremendous amount of respect for people that cover the entire league. I've dabbled in it myself, writing for a website, and then even, uh, toying with doing a league-wide draft channel earlier this year with Bryce. It's hard. It just takes a tremendous amount of time, and you're never going to know all 32 teams as intimately as you would know one if that was your sole focus. And every single offseason, offensive line, offensive line, offensive line, offensive line. And if you're a national guy and that's been the storyline, you show up, you look at the roster this year and you go, wait a minute, it's all the same names except they drafted a guy in the first round. I think they've taken a I'll believe it when I see it attitude, so that doesn't surprise me at all. And it's fine. And I think Mike sums up his thoughts on it in a very reasonable and logical way. There's uncertainty. I can't get behind what they're doing until we see it, because there's so much newness in the coaching staff and the scheme, and it's so young. There's so many young guys on that line. The X factor, and I love this one. I really enjoy this one. Cooper Kupp. I wanted to talk about this a few days ago. And I did mention it in the Rams preview that I did with Jake Ellenbogen, that I think if Cooper Kupp was still in LA, let's say he had agreed to take a pay cut, wanted to stay there, finish out his career, be a Ram for life, they wanted him back, they love him there, I think you'd be hearing stories this offseason about a resurgent Cooper Kupp. Watch for the comeback. He looks as healthy as he's looked in a long time. Because I saw some video the other day of him in mini camp a few weeks ago, just running routes against corners, no pads, no contact, obviously, and cutting as sharp as he's ever cut, being as sudden as he's ever been, certainly looking as ripped and fit as we've ever seen him. It's not like this guy is 40 and coming off patella tendon tears, hamstring tears, ACLs, Achilles. He's coming off a high ankle sprain. Like, his injuries over the last 3 years have been pretty routine. It's just that they've come in succession. You hear about this guy. Nobody works harder. He's not breaking down. Like, I think sometimes we get our heads wrapped around a perception. It's hard to let go of it. And one example that I keep thinking of is when Adam Thielen was let go by the Vikings after a storied career. I think you can draw some parallels. He didn't win the Triple Crown like Cooper Kupp did a couple years ago, but had a tremendous career in Minnesota. And then injuries caught up to him, looked like he lost a step. They let him move on. He went to Carolina and had a big-time bounce-back season, and has been a productive player now for the last 2 years since he left Minnesota. I could see some similarities in Kupp's situation, and I do expect him to surprise some people. I think there's a damn good chance that he has a really, really good season. And the narrative then is going to be, wow, the Seahawks got lucky. Like, he's really bounced back. Whereas, again, I submit that if he had stayed in LA, you'd be hearing those stories. Best shape of his life. He's healthy now. He's going to be the Cooper Kupp of old. The Rams, really, really lucked out by keeping him around. What an inspired decision that was on their part. So I thought it was cool for Mike to acknowledge that he's kind of been flying under the radar with this assumption attached to him that he's slower, he's not as sudden anymore, he's not as dynamic, he's a shell of himself, but he can still contribute because he's a veteran and he's savvy. I think he could be a lot more than that. I don't really have an issue with them being ranked 20 because when you look at all the teams kind of around them, you can justify it. And because there are so many questions on offense. We're being asked to project a lot. So when I project, I'm going to do so with, a little bit of a sprinkle of, my passion and my optimism and how excited I am for what this team could become. Whereas someone that's not attached emotionally to the team, doesn't cover them on a full-time basis, covers the entire league, they're going to come out they're going to come at it from a much more pragmatic and practical standpoint. So I understand it. The only problem I do have is they have the Cardinals at 17th. And I'm sorry, I still just don't get it. I thought they had a couple nice drafts the last couple years. Their first under Monty Austinfort as GM. I thought this year had more dynamic talent in it, some players that I really liked, but it's a volatile draft. There's a lot of boom bust in a lot of their picks. Questions about Walter Nolan, questions about Will Johnson. And I just don't buy Kyler Murray. Never have, still don't. This idea that he's magically just going to become the elite quarterback that many have thought he was going to become at some point, it's going to happen this year. I don't think he has that in him. I just don't. I think we've gone on long enough here where it's like, how much longer do you give him? How much longer do you wait and keep banking on that? I think there's a lot of questions about that roster, a tremendous number of questions about that roster. And so to put them 3 spots ahead of Seattle where they are, I just don't get it. But I think when you look at the rest of the list, like if you move the Cardinals down to 20th and move the Seahawks up to 19th, I don't think I'd have a beef at all. I think they're going to prove them wrong. And Mike Clay does say that he believes if everything comes together, that it's a playoff team. So it's possible to rank someone, say a team is in the bottom third of the league or almost just right on the precipice of the bottom third and can still be good. So just wanted to acknowledge that. Now, from around the division, some of the news and notes as players arrive or don't. Rams, Tristan Wirfs, starting left tackle, still out with those blood clots. Obviously, those are a huge concern. But from their perspective, good news in that they haven't, at least not yet, placed him on the PUP list. He is day-to-day, essentially. They want to leave him active, and they're working, with doctors. He's on a program, everything else. They want to make sure he's good to go and out of the woods before they play him over at left tackle. But that's obviously a huge key for them in that offensive line, something to keep an eye on for sure. And then the big news down there is Kyren Williams. What's going to happen there as he's eligible for a contract extension now. He's been a huge part of that offense. And we hear it all the time, how much Sean McVay loves him. And they've really changed their offensive scheme, especially their rushing attack over the last couple of years, which suits his skill set even better. They've gone from a predominantly wide zone stretch running team to more gap, power, and inside zone. Their offensive line reflects it, much bigger, stronger now, not as much of a premium on the athletes and the guys that can move and get to the second level. And that fits right in with Kyren's game. It's something to keep an eye on. He reported to camp. He intends to play. And both sides have indicated that progress has been made on a contract. So it's worth keeping an eye on because I think there are some parallels to his situation and Kenneth Walker's. Remarkably similar career numbers. Let me just pull this up here. And show you what I came up with. There we go. Walker, for all of his injury issues, has actually played more games than Kyren Williams. They're both 2-2 against each other. That's kind of interesting. But you look, all the way down. Look at the rushing yards is almost identical. The rushing attempts almost identical. Kyren, averaging just slightly more rushes per attempt, 2 more rushing touchdowns. Walker has really established himself the last couple of years as the more prolific pass catcher, and then you can see that Williams has had more activity in as a punt and kick returner, where that's something that Ken Walker hasn't been asked to do. So you look at their fantasy points; it's within 1.5 points of each other, and then Williams has the 1 Pro Bowl nod. Walker has yet to accomplish that. So whatever Kyren Williams ends up signing for, presuming or assuming that he signs before the season starts, sometime over the next month or so, that's essentially going to be Ken Walker's market. And then the question becomes, is that something the Seahawks are willing to do now, given that they have such a deep and young running back room with all the other competitors on their rookie deals as well? Or because of that depth, do they just want to let the season play out, let him get to the end of the year, and then make a judgment then? Obviously, the risk then is that if he does blow up and have a huge year, the type of year that we believe he's capable of, and I've been on record as saying I think he's capable of having a Jahmyr Gibbs type of overall impact on the offense, both rushing and catching the football. If that were to happen, then he obviously becomes more expensive. And so at that point, is that something that the Seahawks would want to do if he proves himself to be a reliable, dependable cog in that offense, which all starts with him proving that he can be healthy for 17 games. So certainly something to keep an eye on of interest down with the Rams. Cardinals, not a lot of drama around their training camp as it opens up, except Will Johnson, the corner out of Michigan, who we know that the Seahawks had in for a 30 visit and dropped in the draft into the middle of the second round rather than being a top 20 selection as most anticipated coming into the draft because of some medical red flags and some potential long-term concerns about his knee not holding up for much more beyond his rookie contract. And there were already questions, even before that came up, about lack of deep speed and how that might impact his transition to the pros, especially when it comes to playing man-to-man defense. One of three rookies unsigned still. And the other two, still waiting on Shamar Stewart. That doesn't seem to be any closer to coming to fruition with the Bengals. The mid-first rounder, and then Quinshon Judkins, the running back selected right after Nick Emmanwori in the second round out of Ohio State, recently arrested, domestic violence accusations there. And so that is obviously complicating contract negotiations, or it's just being set on the back burner, just not a priority for his camp and the Browns right now. And then there's Will Johnson. There is some indication, some vague reports this morning that there isn't a lot of concern that the Cardinals expect him to be under contract soon. Maybe he'll get it done today, maybe by the time you watch this. But that's really the only thing happening down in Arizona that's getting a lot of buzz. Not so with the 49ers. A lot of injury questions, but good news there as well. On the first day of camp, Trent Williams and Christian McCaffrey, clean bills of health. They are both reportedly 100% healthy, no restrictions, ready to go, 100% full speed moving forward. And even Juwan Jennings is expected, has reported to camp, and is expected to practice, even though he has indicated he's unhappy with his contract, believes he deserves to be paid more, hasn't requested a trade yet formally, hasn't indicated he's going to sit out of camp. Doesn't sound like that's going to happen. He is going to practice, and that's good news for the 49ers because we know about Brandon Ayuk, and that was John Lynch spoke about him again in the last 24 hours, that they do not expect him to be ready anytime soon. I don't think there's any chance he plays week 1 against Seattle. That's going to impact that offense. It's already missing Deebo Samuel, who they traded to the Commanders, obviously, this offseason. And Ricky Pearsall is banged up and not practicing to begin camp as well. So their top 3 receivers from a year ago, well, top 3 other than Jennings, are not available. So just even more important that Jennings is there, and it sounds like he's at least going to practice while they're working through this and maybe talking about a new contract. In the meantime, the 49ers, pretty extensive list I saw yesterday of receivers that they're bringing into camp, guys that are still available as free agents, and working them out because they just need to add bodies and have some fallback plans on hand in the event that that Pearsall, I think in particular, isn't ready to go soon. Elsewhere around the league, some other news that I think is worth keeping an eye on for the Seahawks and their fans on the potential trade front. Once again, Trey Hendrickson is the big news, right? We can talk about Micah Parsons. We did last night on the Hawks Zone Rundown show. You can check that out if you want to, especially in light of Jerry Jones and his dumb-headed comments that he made the other day that were very disrespectful to Micah Parsons. And in fact, today, J.J. Watt tweeted something about how disrespectful it was. Micah Parsons retweeted that. So that's got everybody up in arms thinking Parsons might want out. I think it's too soon to be thinking about that. We'll see if he shows up, practices, participates, all of that. But Hendrickson, meanwhile, there is a lot of news. Negotiations are reportedly ongoing again, but do not sound any closer to coming to fruition. There's a couple things at work here. One report says that both sides essentially are on the same page when it comes to financial terms, overall financial terms, length of the deal, total money. Where they are far apart is on guaranteed money. And apparently who said it? Another player was commenting on the situation with Trey Hendrickson, said he had spoken to Hendrickson and said the Bengals' guarantees that they're offering are, quote, atrociously low. Another report says that negotiations are, quote, contentious between Hendrickson and the Bengals. He posted on his socials this morning a scene of the sun coming up in Florida where he lives with no comment, just indicating that he's in Florida and not at Bengals training camp. So it doesn't sound like they're any closer to getting anything done. Bengals have a lot going on there with what we would assume would be their two best edge players that they're counting on this season, Hendrickson, Shamar Stewart, both unsigned. It doesn't look like either are close to agreeing, so the Bengals just keep bengling, and we'll continue to monitor that situation because, again, even though there's some disagreement amongst many of you of how he might fit in as a run defender and whether he's truly a Mike McDonald type of player, the Seahawks would be in as good a position as anyone in the league to make a move for Hendrickson should they choose to. So until that is resolved one way or another, it's something that's just going to kind of be off to the side we're going to keep an eye on. The other one is, and I'm just kind of getting out in front of this because I suspect that some of you will ask me about it, is Terry McLaurin, also unhappy. He's in the last year of his most recent deal, and he is not reporting to camp with the Commanders because he is not happy with that contract and wants a new one. Says he wants to be paid fairly, commensurate with his skills and the wide receiver market. He's in the last year of his deal, as I mentioned. He has a $25.5 million cap hit this year, but $15.5 million of that is base salary. And then I think there's a $2.5 million roster bonus. So it'd be roughly $20 million-ish that an acquiring team would take on. The Seahawks certainly could do that if they wanted to. Terry McLaurin, when healthy and at his best, is simply one of the most dynamic receivers in the league. I'll go on record as saying right now that I just don't think a move like that makes sense. I've had many of you suggest over and over again, hey, Chris Olave, get him out of New Orleans, right? Before Garrett Wilson signed his new deal a few weeks ago. Go get Garrett Wilson. It just doesn't make sense for me for a couple of reasons. Number one, they're going to have to pay JSN next year, and they're going to have to pay him big money. I think he's going to go out and catch 90 to 100 balls again, really establish himself as a go-to receiver, and he's going to get top 10, if not top 5 receiver money next offseason. You're already paying Cooper Kupp a decent amount as a number 2 receiver. And the entire intention this offseason was to get back to basics, get better at running the football. We changed the scheme. We hired the entire new coaching staff. We've targeted a certain type of offensive lineman, and we've committed to it verbally, publicly, about how we're going to run the football. Abe Lucas says this is our identity. This is, we're gonna run the football or die. We also know that Clint Kubiak likes to use a fullback. He uses more 2-back sets than many other teams. He uses more 12 and 13 personnel than many other teams. He likes to use his tight ends. Fewer 3 wide receiver sets. That just doesn't seem to make sense to go out then and pay $30 million a year to another receiver when you're then going to have to pay JSN that money as well. And you have all these other guys who are up for extensions, young guys, and some of the key ones. Really, I see next year as more of a year where the rookie extensions will be big news than this year. It just doesn't make sense to me. It just doesn't fit their intended and stated identity and the style of play they want to move forward with. I just don't think it makes sense. It sounds like something that they would do 10 years ago. And they did that with Percy Harvin, and that didn't work out. Like going out and adding to your skill positions, thinking that you needed to be more dynamic to complement your defense, and really got him into a lot of financial trouble, and they never really got the bang for their buck or their return on investment on that one. So it just really, I'm just not sure that it makes sense for what the Seahawks want to do. Okay, so that's what I've got. Just as far as kind of rounding up what's going on around the league. Now, tomorrow, first day of training camp at the VMAC, 1:15, the players will hit the field. I will be there, credentials in hand. But the update today is I have only been promised tomorrow. I mean, aren't we all? Aren't we all only just? Well, I guess the saying is we're only promised today, right? Um, Seahawks are very conservative and cautious about handing out their credentials, and even though I've been given, some strong positive indications and vibes from them, and have some connections, and I believe my resume is as strong as anyone else out there. Certainly, as an independent creator who would be requesting credentials, they don't just hand these out blindly. They don't just hand them out willy nilly. Other organizations are much freer with their credentials, but Seahawks want to get to know you a little bit, and so. Um, just credentialed for tomorrow. I suspect we're going to go kind of day by day, and then I'm hoping at some point, as early as tomorrow, maybe it's the next day or the day after, getting to sit down with the communications team and meet with them about full-time credentials. Fingers crossed. I've obviously taken a leap. That's my intention. This is what I want to do. I've kind of crafted my entire approach around that. I made some pretty big life decisions the last 5 months to establish the channel and really try to put myself in a better position um, to qualify for credentials. And so we'll see how that goes. If it doesn't happen for the season, I'll pivot. I'll figure it out, and we'll go from there. And we'll just continue the coverage that I've been doing over the years with the added pieces. Really excited to write again this year and do the Substack stuff. And as soon as I get settled, which after practice tomorrow, I'll probably be up pretty late tomorrow night setting up all the podcast studio and everything else. But my intention tomorrow is obviously cover practice. I'll get as much material from that as I am allowed to. I will do a quick little, because I want to get something out as quickly as possible. So I'll do a quick little live hit. Some of it may depend on signal, right? It may be live, or it may just be a short little video that I'll record kind of immediately at the end of practice with some of my first day impressions, and then get in on some of the post practice. I would imagine there's some media availability tomorrow with coaches and or players. Bring that to you. So I'll get something out from VMAC immediately after I'm finished at practice, and then it's a bit of a drive to get to where I'm staying and get things set up and everything, and then I'll do a full show tomorrow night. Actually, I'll do it live. I'll do it live tomorrow night once I'm set up. So it'll probably be around 6, 7 o'clock Pacific time tomorrow, and then you guys can ask questions, anything I didn't cover, and whatnot. So look for that tomorrow. In the meantime, the best thing you can do to help me put this channel forward is subscribe to it, share it, like it, hit that bell for notification, and if you want to support anything else that I do, all those links, as I said before, are down below. And again, just a reminder about the Substack and the Patreon. It's $10 a month for the Patreon. That gives you access to everything. I'm just going to cap it at $10. I don't want to get more aggressive than that. And what that'll get you is you'll be able to watch everything that I do, but ad free over there. YouTube won't be inserting their ads as they do here. And then once I get into camp and I get things really rolling, there will be exclusive bonus material over there as well. And then Substack, it's, I'm always going to charge the lowest amount allowed by Substack, but right now it's free, and it'll be free through the end of the month. That is my commitment to you, and I'll do some really cool stuff there over the next week with things that I'm seeing at camp. So that's where I stand. Let's get a little, let's see, this is a little bit different. There we go. A little bit of music in the background there. Really appreciate you guys watching. Can't wait to get out there to the VMAC tomorrow and see these players running around. Guys, we're there. We made it. We did it. Training camp is upon us. Get a good night's rest, and we'll go starting tomorrow. Follow me on Twitter, as always, at Seahawks Forever. Forever and always, go Hawks. Thanks for watching, guys.